Guys, I know I am not the greatest healer in the world, but even a foreign yokel with a speech impediment can play the Resto Druid now. So this story begins with the balance changes they did last week, where all of a sudden the Resto Druid became the best raid healer in the freaking game. They reduced the mana cost of Life Bloom by 50% and the cost of Nourish by 27%. And all of a sudden the Resto Druid playstyle completely changed. For talents we are gonna take Marco the Wild, for the buff obviously, then we're gonna be taking Healing Touch. We don't really use Healing Touch almost at all, but all the other talents here are pretty freaking useless. Then we're gonna be taking here Insect Swarm, because we gotta fill up talents. Insect Swarm is a deceptively good ability. It gives your tank 2% extra chance that the boss misses hitting him, okay? That's a huge deal, that's 2% dodge for free, let's say. Then we're gonna be taking here, this is the important talent, Reflection. It gives you mana regeneration when you're casting, very strong. And we're gonna be filling here with Subtlety for threat. Here reduces the threat generated. It's not a huge thing either, but there's nothing really good here. We're gonna take 1 point in Tranquil Spirit to reduce the cost of Healing Touch. Healing Touch will no longer be our most mana efficient spell, except in the case where you get like an instant proc, you are not gonna use it anymore. You can, if you want, do something like this, take 4 in Subtlety and 2 in Tranquil Spirit. It barely matters. And we do it for here, okay? Gift of Nature, 10% extra healing. This is one really big scaling ability, even though the Resto Druid still is not a very hard scaler, sadly. And we're gonna be taking Nature Swiftness. This thing makes your spells instant, so just pop it with. I'm gonna show you a macro actually. I'm gonna put it in the Discord. You can use a macro to pop Nature Swiftness and Healing Touch from the same button, and you can do like an instant emergency heal. You do like ta 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 ta, and it goes off. That's for when the tank gets low on a pinch or something like that. You can pop it and really getting back to full HP instantly. And finally, we are gonna be taking Improved Rat here, because we are gonna be using Rat. We're gonna be using Fury of Storm Rage, because Living Seed is absolute garbage anyway. Like I said, we're gonna be taking Fury of Stone Rage. It gives you free rats, and it also gives you a chance to get an instant Healing Touch. That is a big part of our strategy you're gonna see in a minute. Then we're gonna be taking, for the hands, we're gonna be taking Wild Growth. This is a super busted AoE heal for the whole party. This thing is efficient, so efficient that even if you only hit 2 people with the heals, it's still mana efficient. It's insane. For the leg, we're gonna be taking Life Bloom. It got really buffed right now, so it's gonna be our bread and butter now. Basically, this thing puts a heal on time effect on somebody, and after 7 seconds it pops, and it gives you like a big heal, and it also gives you half of the mana that you spent back. The best thing about this thing is that you can stack it, so you do like 1 Life Bloom, you wait 7 seconds, then you do another Life Bloom, and you're getting like the full duration 3 times over, but at the same cost of mana. That's one of the things that make it very good. Now for the waste, we are gonna be taking Nourish. Nourish is basically another Healing Touch. The only difference is that if you get a Life Bloom on somebody and then you pop Nourish, this thing will heal way more efficiently than Healing Touch, so that's why we're taking it. And finally, for the feat, we are gonna be taking Dream State. This gives you 50% mana regeneration when you crit with a damaging spell. That's a rat, right? So if we get a Dream State proc, we can actually go back to healing, drop all the heals, and go back to spamming rat, and that's gonna increase our mana generation a lot. This is a very high sustain build, and that's what makes it work even if you don't have a lot of gear, because I don't have a lot of gear. Your stat priority is gonna be first Intellect. You need about 3000 mana. Let's consider that your hit cap as a druid. That's the one thing you gotta get first. After you get 3k Intellect, the most important stat becomes Healing Power, of course, and after that comes Intellect again as a filler, you know, a little below Healing Power. Intellect gives you crit, so that will still make you scale. The next one is gonna be Spell Critical Chance, not necessarily for your heals. As you guys know, Life Bloom can only crit when you get a pop on the last part of it, but at the other time when you crit on rat you get a lot of free mana, so that's what makes Intellect very good. And last comes Spirit. I guess you can get some caster gear with hit on it, it would help a little, but I wouldn't chase that. I guess you can if you have it. But okay, for the important part, the rotation. Why do I call this the one button druid? Because for the most part, in most of the fights in gnomeregan, you are quite literally gonna be using only one heal for almost all the fight, and that is the Life Bloom. It enables us to generate mana while we are doing nothing else. Guys, after you get some healing power, Life Bloom is a disgustingly big heal. But the beautiful part is that after it runs its course, it's gonna refund you half the mana that you spent, so now it's the most mana efficient single target heal that you got. For the most part in almost all the fights, depending of course on your tank gear, but if you get a more or less decent tank, you'd pop 3 Life Blooms on a tank and he's gonna stay alive on his own after that. I also put a Weakauras in the Discord that is gonna track your Life Blooms for you, so you can see how it's going off and you can keep track of it and the cooldown, so you can see when it's gonna pop. I'm gonna put it on the Discord in the link in the description, go check it out if you wanna get a little more things. I'm gonna put a lot of the Weakauras there. That's where the cool part about this playstyle comes in. You throw 3 Life Blooms on the tank, maybe you throw Life Blooms on whoever else is taking damage, and then you go just to spamming Rat on the boss. Since Rat doesn't cost you any mana with a rune, that's gonna generate as mana after 5 seconds, and that's how you stay sustained through the whole fight. Dream Straight procs are gonna make you regen mana when you go back to healing, and at the same time Fury of Storm Rage procs are gonna give you a big instant healing touch, and that's gonna help you wait a little more. If you get a proc, you can just keep spamming Rat at the boss until the tank gets about halfway to the HP, and then you pop your instant healing touch and he goes way back up, and then you can go back to spamming Life Bloom until you get the 3 stacks and then go to Rat. It's a cycle. We got a healing phase and we got a DPSing phase over and over and over again. That's why the Druid thrives in this phase, because gnomeregan is frankly quite easy to heal. There is not a lot of damage. There is only one fight, I'm gonna talk about it later, where there is actually a lot of damage going off. For the most part, there is only so much healing that you need. And after that, your skill set as a healer is wasted, so being able to DPS and help a little is kinda nice. But for the 10% of the raid where there is actually a lot of damage going off and you actually need to heal your butt off, the rotation changes a little. You drop a Life Bloom, then you drop 2 nourishes on the tank, and then you try to throw a Living Growth too to go off while you're doing that, so it helps also with the whole group. And then you do the rotation is Life Bloom, 2 nourishes, Life Bloom, 2 nourishes, Life Bloom, 2 nourishes until you get 3 stacks, and then just spam nourish until it pops. Once it pops, you can go back to DPSing or going back to Life Bloom depending on the damage that's going off. Living Growth is still super broken with this build. If you see 2 people in the same party taking damage, you should pop it because it is very efficient. It is an instant, so it isn't really like a big cost to do it. It helps a lot, it's gonna help with the tank too. But as I said, the only fight in gnomeregan where this playstyle doesn't really thrive much is the Mechanical Menagerie, because there is a lot of damage going on to the raid if they stand on fire, and to the tank in general, because there is 3 bosses hitting him and there's a lot of stuff that they cannot really avoid, not to mention the chicken doing the clock thing, it hurts. And in this fight you are gonna be crunching for mana very hard. Remember that you can press the buttons in the Menagerie too, that's not a turn map log only mechanic, you also gain mana back in this, but it will still be a big mana challenge. You're gonna have to be popping mana potions on cooldown, and you might have to innervate yourself. Also, if you can afford not to innervate yourself, if you are fine on mana, you should never innervate yourself, because as much as the mana sustain is very good, druids do not really have a lot of output. A druid with infinite mana is still not a very strong HPS healer, so another healer is better off with that mana, like a priest or a shaman or whatever. Or if your raid is very good, if you get a lot of gear and you can just heal comfortably without an innervate, you can just throw the innervate to, let's say, a fire mage or whoever is pumping in your raid so they can do more damage. Now that innervate is a thing, we might see arcane mages with gear popping the meters again. That would be pretty funny. But yes, the druid is still first and foremost a support class. If you wanna top the meters, druid is probably not for you, but I do think this playstyle is much more fun. Your consumables are gonna be the Sagefish Delight for more mana, then the Greater Mana Potion for even more mana, then the Lesser Arcane Elixir for more boom booming the healing, and Lesser Wizard Oil but just for a little more boom boom. And that's it, this class is very cheap for consumables. Overall, the Resto Druid is a very competent and useful class. I didn't choose the Resto lifestyle, the Resto lifestyle chose me because Blizzard went out of their way to ruin the bear forever, but the Resto Druid is pretty good. Please Blizzard, fix the bear! Please, I hate my life, dude! Tanking is all I have, just please! Subscribe, leave a like, join the Discord, and thank you for watching!